Let's just dive right into this explainer, because today we're looking past the daily headlines. We are unpacking a highly provocative new analysis that claims to uncover the hidden forces really driving global conflicts. We're talking about an invisible matrix of energy, power, and money that, according to our source material, completely dictates the global system as we know it.
So think about this for a second. What if the world's biggest conflicts aren't about what you think they're about? The source we're exploring today presents this wild core premise. It suggests that those massive, headline-grabbing events, like the ongoing geopolitical tensions involving Iran, well, they aren't actually the main event at all. In fact, the argument here is that from the standpoint of America's enemies, these conflicts have absolutely nothing to do with Iran. Instead, the claim is that we're essentially in the middle of a massive, completely hidden world war, and it's being fought entirely over global energy and financial dominance, simply because stable energy is the literal lifeblood of any modern economy.
Section 1. The Code of the Old Order, the 1971 Petrodollar System.
To really wrap our heads around this hidden war, our source traces the roots all the way back a few decades to what it calls the original code of the old global energy order. This is the petrodollar market, which kicked off back in 1971. Under this pricing scheme, oil and gas prices began to fundamentally determine whether any given nation's economy would succeed or fail. But here is the massive catch that the framework points out. Sovereign nations? They actually had very little say over this pricing or even the availability of the energy. Instead, the whole system was completely managed, controlled, and dictated by Western financial centers.
So how did the money actually move under this scheme? Well, the data breaks down the flow of this old order into three distinct buckets. First up, you've got the producers, primarily places like the Gulf states and Russia, who are out there actually extracting the oil and gas. But the profits didn't just stay with them. They flowed right into the middle bucket, the profiteers. We're talking specifically about the City of London and Wall Street, where all these contracts were set and priced exclusively in US dollars. And then finally, you have the beneficiaries. Under this massive global arrangement, the United States basically always secured a cut of the money moving around.
Now, the crucial point here is how this whole system maintained its staggering profitability. And to explain this, the breakdown brings up Peter Navarro's documented concept of a fear premium. The analysis neutrally details this pretty shocking claim that regional terrorism, specifically looking at Iran's role, actually added a premium to the profits flowing out of the Gulf and straight into London. In return for keeping this dynamic going, the data suggests groups like the IRGC poured millions back into London real estate rather than, investing it back into their own people. The argument posits that this incredibly lucrative, hidden loop is the exact reason why the UK has historically refused to provide military support in certain regional wars, because doing so would actually disrupt that massive flow of profit.
Section 2. The System Glitch, the U.S. Shale Revolution.
Look, no system lasts forever without some kind of disruption, right? And a major technological shift ended up introducing a massive glitch into this established order. From 1971 on, the petrodollar system was basically undisputed. But then, hitting the early 2000s, the American shale revolution came along and completely changed the game. Seemingly overnight, the United States achieved self-sufficiency in oil and gas. According to the research we're looking at, this newfound American independence fundamentally threatened the entire globe's dependency on that old model. Which leads us right to the present day, where global energy markets are being aggressively rewired. Think about it. The system's absolute biggest customer suddenly didn't need to shop at the store anymore.
Section 3. Competing Realities. The Clash of Energy Visions.
So this technological glitch created a massive political rift. The argument frames our current global divide not just as your standard, run-of-the-mill policy disagreement, but as an existential battle between two fundamentally different energy realities. On one side, you have what the source calls the globalist system. This includes things like the Biden administration's Green New Deal, which the framework claims is purposefully aimed at slashing domestic production to actually destroy American energy independence, alongside the continued funding of the Ukraine war. Now, on the flip side, this is contrasted with a sovereign system. Here, it points to Donald Trump's policies, which were aimed at massively increasing U.S. oil and gas output, pulling out of the Green New Deal and essentially smashing that petrodollar scheme to clear the way for independent, sovereign trade between nations. According to the source material, these are two entirely incompatible visions for the global future.
To really drive this point home about the potential intent behind these policies, the material highlights a quote from Marco Rubio that he delivered at Davos back in February. He said, "Deindustrialization was a conscious policy choice."
The analysis aligns this statement directly with the Trump administration's repeatedly stated view that the old energy order actually engineered the managed decline of Western civilization on purpose, basically sacrificing industrial independence just to maintain that old financial control matrix.
And this whole idea of a managed decline brings us to a really provocative claim regarding current events. The breakdown outlines what it calls a hidden motive for the Ukraine war. According to the analysis, this conflict is serving the exact same goal as the old energy order. The claim is that the war is really aimed at, number one, achieving regime change in Russia, and number two, gaining direct control of massive Russian oil, gas, and mineral wealth. And all of this, point three, is being sold to the public by their leaders as an economic revival strategy when the argument maintains it's really just a desperate bid to preserve the old economic system.
Section 4. System Crash, the European Economic Fallout.
Okay, stepping away from geopolitical theory for a minute, we need to look at the real-world present-day consequences happening right now. 100,000 jobs cut. That is not theoretical. Volkswagen recently announced these massive job cuts in Germany. The data points to this as direct, undeniable evidence that the UK and Europe, the literal centers of that old order we talked about, are actively collapsing under the strain of their current energy policies.
And honestly, it could get significantly worse very soon. There's a really stark warning from The Economist outlining that limited gas access could quite literally crash Europe's economies this coming winter. The analysis uses this warning to highlight the immediate systemic threat that energy scarcity poses to the very industrial survival of the entire European continent.
Naturally, economic collapse inevitably leads to political shockwaves. The analysis notes that as the centers of the old orders start breaking down, it leads directly to populations in revolt. And we're seeing this manifest in real time, right? Opposition parties are now leading the polls in major nations like the UK, France, and Germany. The everyday economic pain of this hidden energy war is translating directly into massive political upheaval.
To summarize the current state of play, the framework presents this stunning admission from Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of England. He stated simply, "The old order is finished." This really underscores the source's ultimate conclusion, that the historical petrodollar system, that global financial code that has literally governed wealth since 1971, has been irrevocably shattered by these shifting energy realities.
Which leaves us with one final major question to think about. As the code of the old world crashes, how will this hidden energy war reshape the future of sovereign nations? We've explored the claims about the hidden flow of money, the disruption brought on by American energy independence, and the incredibly stark economic realities facing Europe today. Regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, this analysis really forces us to look past the daily headlines and question the deeper currents of global power. So think about it. What would a total rewiring of the global energy market actually mean for your own future and the future of your country's economy? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the world's most complex topics.